Hey guys, Michael here with Gaming for Immersion, and like many of you, I am looking forward to patch 8 for Baldur's Gate 3, dropping probably by the time this video gets uploaded. It'll be later that same day. And so I've gotten back into it, sort of messing around with a couple of ideas, trying to decide how exactly I want to approach the new subclasses in patch 8. I am happy to say that Immersioneer and I are going to be doing another playthrough of this. For anyone who is a fan of our previous series of videos, of course, the adventures of Findon Fastfellow and Linus Leftwich, we're going to be doing another one here using some of the subclasses from patch 8. So yeah, really looking forward to that. Should be showing up on his channel here in the near future. I think at this point we're just going to be running that on his channel instead of on mine. I will put a link to his channel in the description of this video. Now, this does remind me a little bit of how I feel overall about this game, which is obviously it is a masterpiece game, although it's a little bit of a flawed masterpiece because although I very much appreciate all the content that there is in this game, all of the polish that there is in this game, there are still some lingering issues with the game as well that I really wish that they would address. And so I want to talk about one of those here in this episode. So what exactly then do I want to talk about? Well, I want to talk about throwing builds. So when we use the term busted, and throwing builds are indeed busted in this game, when we use that term, we can mean busted to mean one of two different things. One is that it's just completely overpowered. It maybe trivializes the content of a game to a certain extent. At the very least, it just feels really, really strong relative to other builds. And certainly all that is true of a throwing build. However, busted can also mean another thing, which is, of course, that it's kind of buggy or at least doesn't work exactly the way that you would expect it to. And so I'm going to mention both of those things, and really that's what I want to focus on. As of the time of this recording, the full patch notes have not been released yet. So I don't know whether they're doing anything to address any of these issues, but I hope so. If not in patch 8, I hope in the very near future. So throw, obviously, extremely strong mechanic, particularly combine it with the Ring of Flinging and with the Tavern Brawler feat. Then obviously you have yourself a build that can do tons and tons of damage if it's used properly. And the problem is there's two different issues that I constantly have with the throw. One of them, of course, is that if you get yourself a nice weapon that for one reason or another, maybe you bind it to you as one of several different classes can do. Maybe you're using the returning pike like I am doing here. It is something that is supposed to return to you after you throw it. It works great most of the time, but as I'm sure some of you have noticed, there is a problem that when you throw it, particularly at the beginning of combat, it will sometimes not return to you the way that it's supposed to. Now, I don't think this is common knowledge, at least it took me a very long time to learn it for myself. The way that this works, the reason that it happens, and it is a bug, at least it sure seems like a bug to me, is it all comes down to your initiative sequencing. So if you throw something that is supposed to return to you and you are still in control of your character after you make the throw, then it will indeed return to you. But if you make the throw when you're no longer in control of your character, most usually this happens in the first turn if a combat has already started and you're throwing, and because when you join a combat already in progress, it tends to move you later to a later point in the initiative sequence for that first turn. So technically you make your throw, you're no longer in control of your character by the time the damage is inflicted, and your character has now officially joined the combat. It moves you back at some point into the initiative sequence. Boom, all of a sudden the object does not return to you. So what that means is I generally, because I use an assassin at least in this playthrough with the Starian here, to start out most of my combats. Then I have Karlak join in with a throw. I just have her throw something that she can afford to not have returned to her on that first turn, because, yeah, if I try to use my returning pike, it's just not going to come back to her unless she gets lucky and does indeed get placed in the initiative sequence early enough that she is still in control of her character after making the throw. Hopefully that makes sense. So here's an example of it working in that way. Yeah, so that's one problem that I'd like to see them fix with the throw build, is basically just that things that are supposed to return to you don't always do it, and it does seem to be related to where you are in the initiative sequence. However, that's probably not my number one problem with throws, because you can kind of work around that. No, my number one problem with throws is what you see here, which is, I would hope, fairly obvious. Yeah, you can't throw at things directly in front of you way too frequently in this game. The line of sight, the pathfinding, it's still a little bit wonky. And yeah, so I've got a couple examples here of Karlak is just standing so close, or at least in direct line of sight of things, and it's just telling me path is unavailable, or path is obstructed, excuse me. And yeah, it kind of drives me crazy a little bit. To me, it's enough to make me feel like I probably want to abandon the throw build, because there's just too much of the time that this happens. Now, I realize that for whatever reason, Larian has decided that when you throw things, it uses indirect fire. It's more of a mortar than a machine gun. So you're throwing things way up in the air and expecting them to arc down and hit your target, which doesn't make any sense, because that's not how throws work in real life, but that's how they decided to make it in this game for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe they wanted to balance it out because it's already so OP. They just wanted there to be some deficiencies in it. I don't know. I don't know exactly. But anyway, for whatever reason, that's the way they've designed it. So yeah, too much of the time it does feel like you've got something in front of you trying to throw directly at them, and for whatever reason, the game is going to obstruct you from it. So again, this is something that I'd like to see them address. I don't know if they even consider it a flaw. I have to kind of maybe accept the fact that this is just a design decision that they've made that doesn't make any sense to me, and who knows, maybe one of you or many of you can explain to me why I'm completely wrong about this, but that's kind of my perspective as of the time of this recording. So anyway, really, in summary, really looking forward to patch 8, looking forward to another playthrough of this game. But yet at the same time, just wanted to point out that there are some issues in the game, like this, for example, that while they're adding this new content in, while I very much appreciate all that new content, I still do think that there's a couple of things that they could stand to polish in the game that are already there. So yeah. Okay. Anyway, I think I will probably leave it at that. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know what you guys think. Have you figured out a great way to make throw builds work? Because like I said, they are overpowered. They're worth doing if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for, but at the same time there's sort of these sort of glaring deficiencies in it. All right, anyway, thanks everybody for watching and listening, and I will see you all in the next video.